Y'all want to hear the most wonderful sound in the world? Watch this. Ah, incredible, wonderful, exhilarating. Welcome to Adam is Chase podcast, everybody. Glad you could make it. I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. How's everything? How was your day yesterday? Was it good? It was all right for me. I finally finished because I was listening to a podcast not too long ago. And I was listening to Christian Harloff actually. And him and Real Rejects, and like I listen to a lot of film podcasts and film review, film critic, like reaction stuff, and I enjoy it. It was just like one of those things where like I think the last few months have like broken my brain, probably because of the election, to be honest with you, but more so I think more than the election. I won't blame it on politics, okay? But I will say that a lot of shows and a lot of movies that have come out of Marvel, it's mostly TV, right? So let's just focus on TV. It's going to be a TV filled day today, okay? We're talking about Penguin, we're talking about Agatha, okay? Because I watched both of these shows and I have lots of thoughts, and a lot of it is overlapping too. So I was listening to a podcast, and I forgot which one specifically, but I was listening to, it might have been actually Christian Harloff. I'm pretty sure, but it doesn't matter. Anyways, I was listening to it, and there was like lots of praise for Agatha all along. And I've gotten to the point in Marvel shit where I've just been completely fucking jaded. And I don't know what it was. Actually, no, I know exactly what it was. There was a few shows. It was like Loki season 2. It was Secret Invasion. And I've talked about all these shows in previous eps. Please check it out. And also The Acolyte. And I just felt like Disney in these like Marvel show, like any franchise show, really. I just always come in with the highest apprehension. And after a while, I realized like, okay, maybe I am missing out on Agatha, and we'll check it out. And it turns out I was. And I was also missing out on Penguin as well, because that was also being talked about all the time, because I finally gotten back into, listening to all these film podcasts, and it's kind of fun just because it's like a neat little break from, the constant, political podcast streams, coverage and everything. It's just nice to just like distance myself from it for a little while. And I gotta say, like the shows surprised me more than I thought it would, like completely. And it's a good thing. It's just I realized after watching the first season of Agatha, like what a good show is supposed to look like. And I remembered, like, after watching it last night, I just sort of, like, sat on my couch and just, like, stared into space for, like, 5 minutes. Probably. It was probably, like, maybe, like, 3 minutes. And I just remember thinking to myself, I'm like, I think I forgot how good shows were supposed to be. Because, dog, after Secret Invasion and specifically Acolyte, I didn't know how much I could handle. And I was like, you know what? I gotta take a break from this. And I'm glad I did, to be honest, but it kind of shook me because I was so looking forward to a lot of these shows. And most of the time, it felt like the shows were trying its best to be a movie without actually trying to be a show. And I would say most of the shows, except for probably WandaVision and Miss Marvel is interesting. I feel like Miss Marvel was kind of like a movie, but it was like one of the exceptions that I felt was like, okay, you know what? Miss Marvel is actually like, it works as a show, it works as a movie, like a long ass movie, but you know, a lot of these shows overstayed its welcome like pretty fast, like Secret Invasion, and it just became like a mishmash of just random ass shit that doesn't feel like it's connected. It's so disjointed. It doesn't feel like people were taking these shows seriously, and it was rewarding, but I forgot that feeling that like, oh, there are like showrunners who give a shit about these shows, like Jack Schaefer, who worked on WandaVision, worked on this show on Agatha, and that is just how a showrunner runs a show. You have it episodic where you still leave people guessing, but you leave breadcrumb trails enough to not confuse sort of confuse the audience, but understand that everything is going to kind of like loop back around. So you just sort of have to like suspend some disbelief for a little while, and then the payoff really does work out. But like it's it's one of those things where you feel like, oh, I don't think, because like after a few episodes I was out. I was like, you know what? I don't know if I can do this. And quite frankly, I didn't know if I was even going to return to these shows. Even Penguin, and I'm glad I did, because the endings of both of these shows were phenomenal. Like they had no reason to be as good as they are. Because we've been getting so many shows that were just so fucking mundane and so boring and disjointed. I didn't know how I would react to a show like, to Agatha, because like after like 3 or 4 episodes, I was like, you know what, I think I'm done, and it was like one of the most crucial episodes too. It was like right before. By the way, we're going to talk mad spoilers, so fair warning. First off, we're going to talk about Agatha, and the reveal that the teenager, the boy, was or is Billy Maximoff, Wanda's kid, and or I guess offspring, right? Descendant, whatever. I felt like before that moment, it was like the show was just like it wasn't dragging its feet, but it was definitely like one of those shows where I'm like, maybe this just isn't for me. And then I felt the same way with Penguin season 1. After like 2 or 3 episodes, I was like, I don't know if this show is for me. I will stick with it kind of, but like I don't know if this is for me. And goddamn was I wrong. I was pretty wrong. And like these shows were great. Like this is what a show is supposed to be like, whether or not you think it was good or was bad, it doesn't matter. This is what a well-written show looks like. It really is. And I do appreciate the fact that like even Lauren LaFranc, who created Penguin, like they knew the characters, they knew all the things that were, because the plot kind of comes second, right? And I think I've talked about this on a previous episode, but when it comes to shows, it is the perfect opportunity to really invest in your characters. And that's why like shows like Game of Thrones and The Wire and Sopranos and most of these shows really grab you, not because of what the plot is or like what was the inciting incident, but really because of these characters and how, you know, vulnerable they are, how lonely they are, how everything is supposed. I think I talked about this with the Joker too at last night or yesterday, and I just sort of like kind of came to the realization that like movies in shows really don't shine when they sort of make their characters sort of like secondary. They're like, oh yeah, we're gonna have something down the road in the future, you know, for some of these characters. And that's kind of how I felt with Loki season 2. I just felt like a lot of the times they were kind of kicking the can down the road. There was a few episodes that I really enjoyed. It's just for whatever reason just felt like the characters were not setting off the plot the way that a character should. It was just, okay, here's a plot and go. You didn't really have any development. We didn't have any time to be with these characters, and like we were kind of more worried about like the colorful, flashy shit, and you know, to like it feels like, you know, it's just like Tim Dillon says, just all lights and colors, you know. And that's what most people are attracted to, and there's nothing wrong with that if that is what you like, you know. I am of the mind where, you know, everything is subjective, even art, and especially when it comes to TV and in movies. You can't force people to enjoy something that they probably wouldn't like. Like, as much as I want everyone to enjoy Twin Peaks, most people probably won't enjoy Twin Peaks. You know what I mean? I enjoy it a lot. I love that show. I'm not a huge David Lynch fan, but I love Twin Peaks because of the characters. The characters really meant something, and they really do their best. It's weird. It's a weird ass fucking show, but you're with Cooper the entire time, and you are invested, and he finds good in people, and like he, you know, cares about the law and shit like that, you know. You know, back when propaganda wasn't so propaganda-y. You know what I'm saying? So, with Agatha, I felt like I dropped off immediately when the show was really fucking like turning. And I think I made a mistake. I made a mistake, and I enjoyed the show a lot. I love the characters. I love Lilia. I think that's her name. I got this shit pulled up. Lilia was great because Lilia was like one of those characters. It was Lilia, right? Or am I tripping? Yeah, Lilia. Yeah, Patti LuPone. Shout out to her. Great actress. They all did phenomenal. The girl who played Jen, like like the thing with these characters too is that like I wish that some of these characters could have some sort of like redemption or return or whatever. But the thing that I love about Agatha is that the deaths are actually deaths. They're not like, you know, they're not just simply like, oh, this is, you know, this is just a placeholder until they're going to come back later, you know. And to be fair, yes, we know that, you know, that Kree dude, and I love the actor's name, and I'm completely forgetting, from Secret Invasion, but I know there was that death, I think. I think he died. Did he die? I don't remember. I'm so far removed from Secret Invasion. It's just like Secret Invasion is just one of those shows that just made me not mad, but I was just like, oh, these people truly like came into the writer's room and they were just like, I don't fucking know. Just fucking write whatever. They just phoned it the fuck in. How true is that? I don't know. But it's just, and making any show is really hard, by the way. Making any movie is really, really, really fucking hard. So you can tell how much work they put in on a $40 million budget like Agatha was the entire season. $40 million. Whereas a lot of these shows are 100, 150, 200 million, like Acolyte. And proves to you and it proves to the audience that like money makes no difference at all. It really makes not much of a difference. A lot of money works. I mean, it helps, but like it doesn't mean that the story works because of it, you know? So as long as you have an engaging story, that is what it counts. And Agatha is no exception to that, because the show really kind of stand off on its own. And I was worried that it was just going to be an extension of WandaVision, and that's what I was led to believe. I was just like, okay, this is just like an extension of WandaVision. I don't know how I feel about it. And it is, but it wasn't in a way that felt like it was forced, you know, like with Billy Maximoff, for instance, right? The way that Lilia put a sigil on his name so that we didn't know who his name was for, 4 or 5 episodes, which I thought was interesting. But it really lent to why shows like these are important. Because when you are a storyteller, the thing that you want to avoid the most, especially when it comes to like a villainous kind of, character like Agatha Harkness, a lot of times showrunners and show creators really try their hardest to make them come full circle and, do the hero's journey, but do it in a way that makes them good, not in a way that like makes them realize who they actually are and why they are these people in the first place. They kind of misuse the Joseph Campbell, hero's journey, because it's not about redemption. It's not about, I mean, it can be as long as you write it correctly, but it's just when you have an evil villain, the last thing you want an evil villain to have is a redemption that makes them good all of a sudden, and that's like every fucking CW show almost, although to be fair, there are some that do remain evil, but that's, neither here nor there. And don't come after me, CW fans. I'm sorry. I watch those shows too. I watch Flash, and I do enjoy it. It's just, but there is that common misconception when it comes to villains that like, oh, villains are not always evil. You understand why they are evil, but then they end up being good. Agatha Harkness, you understand why she's evil, but she is evil through and fucking through, and the death actually meant something when she did pass. And seeing death, Rio, played by one of the greatest of all one of the greatest actors that we have in our generation, Aubrey Plaza. Just what a dynamite she is, especially just like being a character that doesn't really have much presence in the show. Like, she wasn't in every single episode, but you got her whole deal. You got why she is death. You got why, Agatha felt like she did not want to be judged by her son who passed or who death took, because that is the way that the story and her timeline is supposed to go. This is just what it's supposed to be. And I credit Jack Schaefer for just sticking to their guns and making sure that, like, okay, no, this villain is a villain. We're not going to go and have a redemption song for her, right? So, things are explained, but it's not necessarily like, well, she's good, actually. It's just she was dealt the wrong hand, or she was slighted, or whatever the fuck, right? And that was a thing that I've had a concern with Joker 2, and I'm glad they didn't do that as well. So when it comes to villains, it just, you cannot have an edge to them only for them to just like be good at the end of the day. It feels so fucking wrung out. So all the characters, like Alice was great, you know, of dealing with a generational curse of, you know, of having this song be played. And also too, like the whole Witches Road thing and how it's like technically made up, and like we got to the final episode in a kind of usual suspect situation where it was all conjured in Billy's head, sort of like the power of what Wanda had. And it makes total sense, because Wanda, you know, taking over Westview and having this kind of like, you know, TV show atmosphere, because that is the only comfort that Wanda can have. The only comfort that she's ever had was watching a show in, you know, just being there watching TV with someone else, you know, is powerful, because you're sharing a moment with someone. And oh my God, like even just thinking about it gives me chills. I just, that shit just made me fucking weep. But because that's what you want at the end of the day, is just someone who you can just watch something with, you know? But anyways, you know, Billy is no exception to that, right? So when Billy kind of had this all conjured in his head, it was even more powerful knowing that Agatha was going to, you know, take all of their powers, all of the women's powers who she gathered up, and was like, yeah, we're gonna go to the Witches Road. And everybody is like, bullshit, whatever. Then they finally are convinced, they come together, and fucking A, there is a Witches Road, you know? And how they played into it, and the consequences that were too, like Billy coming to the realization that he has essentially killed like mostly everyone. I mean, like, yeah, like from Lilia to Alice, Jen survived. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, Jen survived because she proved herself, and she got what she was missing. So she was able to fight through that. And I think that was really, really, really powerful. And again, like, this is why I need time for shows to just sort of like, whenever I watch a show, it's not like I was able to have this thing like week to week, and like I was able to just like, you know, think about this for a week, and then, you know, come to the next episode, you know, and then therefore after that, you know, this is why I like episodic television, because of that. But when it came to episodic television in the way of Acolyte, it just felt like it was homework. It just felt like, same with Secret Invasion, same with even, I like Moon Knight, but there were so many points in Moon Knight where I was like, okay, this just feels like there were a couple episodes that just went fucking nowhere, you know? And I feel like I am due to rewatch some of these shows just to kind of like, I don't know, maybe reinforce my feelings on it, or at least like see it and go, you know what, actually, it was better than I thought. And I feel like Moon Knight might be one of those shows. But anyways, yeah, Marvel got a little bit of redemption with this show, and I gotta hand it to them. So yeah, all the characters I definitely enjoyed. Even the Witches Road was kind of like a character in the show as well, going through, you know, everyone's trials and how they react to it and how they overcome it, you know, through those trials. So, yeah, the shows were solid. The shows did what it was supposed to do, and I appreciated those shows for that. And yeah, I enjoyed the fuck out of it. Yeah, there's just not much. I don't know if I would put Agatha as like my favorite show of all time, you know? But I don't think it was a bad show by any stretch of the imagination. It was just me being so jaded to thinking that, oh, this is just going to be another one of those fucking shows where it just feels like everything's phoned in, and it wasn't by any stretch of the imagination. And there were lots of interesting points to it, you know. It's just for whatever reason it didn't like hook me into it, you know. So and then when I finally sat my happy ass down and watched through it all, I was pleasantly fucking surprised. I was very pleasantly surprised. So yeah, I think the show is good. Do I recommend it? I recommend it if you enjoyed WandaVision. I will say that. I think if you liked WandaVision, I think you will probably like this show as well. Not just because of like the connectedness of, Billy to WandaVision, but like as like a thing, a separate thing of just focusing on Agatha and, witchcraft stuff. Which, by the way, I don't know. I'm gonna assume this was a Jack Schaefer kind of thing, but like, I loved how they didn't make the witchcraft stuff so convoluted. There was silliness, of course. There's a little bit of like, ethereal silliness, but at the end of the day, it was pretty straightforward as to like how Billy kind of, came into all of this, right? And how Agatha, overcame the whole like, sitcom thing in her brain, right? And Billy trying to get Agatha out of that, I thought was pretty solid. So I think there is a lot of merit to it that didn't feel like the whole witchcraft shit was so like bombastically like over the top and silly. But silly enough that it counted. Like especially with the room with all the swords on the roof or in the ceiling when they drop down and they all dressed up as like like Lilia was like the witch of the east, or yeah, the witch of the east, and like Agatha was the wicked witch of the west. Like I thought that was funny. And Lilia saying like, I can't believe we're doing this. It's so demeaning. I thought that was funny. Just in terms of like the stereotypical witch stuff. And I kind of enjoyed that. I really enjoyed that actually. So yeah, the comedy worked in the show. The concept of it in the witches and covens and stuff, I thought was really, really neat. Way more believable than, not to disrespect Leslie Headland, but it was way more believable in Agatha than it was in Acolyte. And that's like space witchcraft, which I'm here for. I love a good, Dathomirian magic. That shit fucking ruled, especially in the Clone Wars series or even in Jedi Order, the video game. I thought their use of it was fantastic. And I just wish that like more creators and more people could be a little bit more invested into it without feeling like, you have to go, like it has to be shoehorned in, or like it has to be so overly complicated that it'll just confuse the audience, and it would just, gets into the point where like, okay, whatever, I guess, sure, let's just go with this, right? And it didn't need to be that way. And I think they did a very, very good job with that. So yeah, was there anything else that I'm missing with Agatha? I don't think so. I think I said what I needed to say. Yeah. Good show. If you liked Agatha from WandaVision, if you like WandaVision in general, I think this show is definitely up there. I don't know what Marvel's going to do when it comes to witch stuff like this, But I like what Marvel is doing right now in terms of just like, let's make this like comic books, right? Like, let's just make the series just what it is. It doesn't need to be connected to everything, although a lot of comic books do rope in a lot of, other superheroes. Um, but it didn't need to have that. You know what I mean? Which is, I guess, a good segue to Penguin, because Penguin Penguin was one of those shows where it felt like, oh, I hope Batman doesn't show up for this because what it felt like to me was that Penguin and Sophia Falcone, um, the Triads, the Dilo, like all of those gangs, like they all had their own stories, right? Especially Vic, one of the most tragic fucking stories, or at least one of the most tragic characters in the entire series. Sophia was very tragic too, but Vic was even more so because like Vic like had trusted him so much so that he had an out. He had an out, and he was ready to. He was ready to just say, you know what, fuck this. I'm just gonna go, with this girl who I'm very interested in, or who is my girlfriend, or whatever. I don't know. But the point was that like he had an out, and he trusted Oz, the Penguin, as someone who looks out for him, who actually cares for him, because he is also like an outcast, right? Like he is, he has this stutter, and Oz kind of felt for him, right? Because he too, like growing up, walked with like, a limp, just kind of like waddling around and stuff, despite the fact that like the major fundamental difference between Vic and Oz is that Oz is a narcissistic psychopath. Like he is a villain of villains. Like he made sure he was going to be that way all the way to the end, where Vic was just brutally fucking taken out by Oz, where I don't know, like I didn't have a feeling that Vic was going to go, but I did think like, oh, I feel like one of the Triads is going to kill Vic out of control to fuck with Oz, but at the hands of Oz made the show 10 times darker than I thought it could really, really go. And it went the fucking distance. It really went the distance. And I appreciated the show for just even sticking to their guns, Lauren LaFranc really, really fucking brought her A game. Someone who I didn't even, the name that I didn't even recognize. And Lauren LaFranc, I think, wrote. She wrote Chuck. She wrote for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and another show called Impulse. I don't know what that is. Apparently, it's a YouTube premium show. And y'all remember YouTube premium shows? Man, what a time that was. Damn. Anyways, but I thought that she and the writer's room really understood who Oz was. Same with Colin Farrell, but you only can be a character's only strong by its writing, right? By its dialogue, and that takes a lot. It takes a lot to write good shit for a character that is inherently just fucking evil, just the worst. And I think they did a phenomenal job with it, So, Penguin, how it started off too. Like I said before, like how it started off, I was just sort of like, okay, all right, like let's go through the thing. Okay, Vic and Oz, and then okay, we got the Falcones, and we got the Maronis. I figured that like, okay, I felt like the show was really coming together the moment when we get a little bit of backstory with Sophia. And this is the thing that really makes me nervous when it comes to shows that do flashback shit. Because when shows do flashback stuff, it can really make a show super disjointed from the rest of the season. This didn't feel that way. There is a purpose and there is a point, especially with Oz's past. And I didn't know how I felt, even going to the past, like towards the end of the season, where I was like, why the fuck are we going to go back to Oz? And then the whole explanation and the reveal that Oz killed his fucking brothers cold-bloodedly, and had this like disdain for them from the very beginning, of that, like they weren't, they didn't care enough to take care of, his mom in the way that Oz did, because Oz has just a very unhealthy attachment to his mother, and only did it only for her, no one else. And to have that dissociation from that lie of him not admitting that he had killed his brothers, despite the fact that his mom found out, or just figured it out, saw that he had a flashlight in his pocket, came home soaking wet, without his brothers and shit. And to have that realization, especially from, a mother, is daunting. And I didn't know how I felt about the character even in the beginning of the show. Because at the beginning of the show, I was just like, okay, she's just like a kooky lady. She's kind of like I kind of likened her to Livia Soprano from The Sopranos, who was just a fucking god. That lady was a nightmare. But and it was written well. It was written very well. And I did see like a lot of the Tony and Livia kind of thing with but I guess more so with Oz, right? Because like with Oz, we see that like, he is a troubled fucking kid, thinking that like, oh, this is just an afterthought of him just being like, oh, I miss my brothers too. I know you miss them, but I miss my brothers as well. It's like, to say that to your mother is just like, fucking, that's crazy. That is like psychopathic behavior, like tenfold. And I felt like that was, they were really hitting the fucking like nail into the what. Sorry, I am very tired, so my analogies are fucking warped right now. But to reinforce that idea that Oz is a true narcissist day in and day out, even a crime dude like Rex, from back in the day, saw Oz as like an opportunity. When his mom was explaining to Rex, like, hey, my son is a psychopath. This is not good. I don't want him around me. He is a fucking danger, and I don't know what I'm going to do if he's going to stick around, And that is a terrible thing for a mother to say, but at the same time, you see the dissociation from Oz himself in what he thinks is caring and love really turn into like, oh no, you're just fucking like psychotic. But in his brain, he's not. You know, he just thinks he's hustling. He's getting by, you know. And I feel like that goes a lot for most of these crime bosses, right? And the way that Oz can tap into the psyche of these people, given what his past was, he's able to say that to the other, you know, underlings of all of the other gangs and the triads that, you know, were not appreciated enough. We're not given the gratitude that they thought that they deserved, you know, because their bosses took all the credit, you know, despite that they did most of the legwork. Same with Oz, you know, same with Oz when he worked for the Falcons. So when that was all transpiring, and we're gonna get to Sophia in just a second, but like with Oz, it just felt like his character through and fucking through to the end remained evil. There was no bit of compassion, and you got to the end of the season thinking, "Oh, I fucking hate this dude." And I hope Batman just beats the shit out of him in Batman Part 2. You know? Like you cannot wait for that. I cannot wait for that. So yeah, I think Oz's character is undeniably evil through and fucking through. And I appreciated that the writers did not skimp on that, and they did not go for the whole like he's actually misunderstood and he's good and he's, you know, he's trying his best. And it's like, no, he's psychotic, and he will stop at nothing, even killing people who had admired him for taking like Vic, for an example, having Oz take him under his wing and show that like he has a purpose. And that purpose is to make a name for himself and prove himself that he can overcome the horrible banality of you know, of him losing his family, you know, due to the flood, like what happened in the end of the first Batman film. So yeah, I think that that character and Vic really had a dynamic relationship, and I was invested into it. And then now going into Sophia, Kristen Milioti, I hope she's gonna be up for a nomination at least, and I hope she wins a fucking award, because Jesus Christ, she killed it, you know. And that episode, and again, I leave shows when it becomes the most pivotal, because I left the show right before the whole like Hangman thing was bullshit, you know, like it was all an elaborate fucking scheme from her dad, Carmine, who had affairs and killed all of these women. And because Sophia didn't quite understand what was going on, and she had questions, and she talked to a reporter, and Carmine just essentially sold her the fuck out. And it was like, oh no, it was her. She's mentally unwell. She killed all these people. She should be taken to Arkham, sorry. And that's exactly what happened. And I just thought to myself, I'm like, oh, okay. So we're going straight into another character who a whole ass character's history as to why the Falcons and the Maronis are all really bad people that run Gotham in a way that like makes everybody depend on them, is very fascinating and very, very interesting. And seeing how Sophia kind of overcame that and got home, you know, to try and figure out who killed Alfonso. I think that's his name, Alfonso or Alberto. Alberto. It is his name, Alberto. Yeah, and the actor, I love the actor too. Um, he was in Marvelous Miss Maisel, and I'm not remembering the name, and I wish I had the I wish I had his name. So Sophia really really just wanted to get to the bottom of what happened to her brother. Understandably so. And I thought that's what the whole show, like the whole season was going to be about. But that shit ended fucking episode 4. We figured it out. It was already done, and you know, Oz kind of was outed by Maroney's wife, another phenomenal actress. I'm forgetting her name. God damn it! I gotta stop doing this. I gotta just have like, it's so hard for me to remember names like that, like you know, like have it like Rolodex in my brain. Um, but yeah, I Nadia Maroney, Shoreh Agdashlu, uh, Agdashlu, Shoreh Agdashlu. Um, yeah, she a phenomenal actress who outed Oz to Sophia and said, "Oh yeah, this is the guy who killed your brother." And Sophia just like, you just see the fucking moment in her eyes. Chris Milioti fucking killing it every single time. She she realizes this, and that whole plot line is now fucking done. Now it's about, okay, Sophia is just going to do everything she possibly can to get rid of Oz. But seeing how Oz can tap into the underlings of most of these crime families really was the thing that she undermined the most. Because she thought, oh, I can just, I don't care about this whole ass empire. I'm going to burn this fucking house down. You people can take it. You people can control whatever the fuck you want to do. I'm out. I don't want to deal with this. All I am focused on is getting rid of Oz. And she was this fucking close. And it's just no dice. And what I thought was like, oh, okay, she's going to die. Like, she's 100% going to die when, you know, Oz, you know, just took out like the head of the Dilo, you know, and had this whole thing set up to where, you know, she was going to be handed Oz, you know, with a ribbon, with a bow and shit, you know, delivered straight to her. And that just did not fucking happen at all. And what I thought was that she was just going to die. It was a fate worse than fucking death. And that is that she went back to the same place where it all began with her. Back to fucking Arkham, which is insane, bro. Fucking, or I guess she just went to jail, right? She just went to regular ass jail. Yeah, I thought that whole character arc of Sophia was, in my opinion, the most fascinating, next to Vic, but her storyline was truly like one of the most fascinating, of someone who really isn't a villain, who has not killed anybody, despite the fact that she did eventually kill a lot of people by gassing them, which is fucking crazy. But yeah, it felt like this character really took on her own, and like the audience, at least for myself, was rooting for her the entire time, you know, because I was like, oh, fucking, I hope she takes down Oz, but I know that's not what the show is about, right? So with what happened to her, made sense, but yeah, I just thought that demise, and then her finding out that she has a half sister named Selena Kyle, I was like, yes, this is fucking awesome. Because I had to go back and remember and go, wait a second, was that actually fucking true? And it is true, you know, because Carmine was you know, just wanted to wanted to reach out to her, but like I guess because that since Carmine passed, it was Selena's Kyle opportunity to then finally reveal to Sophia that like, oh yeah, we're related. And I would imagine that she is glad that Carmine is gone. So that's why I'm excited for season 2. I hope we see uh uh um Zoe Kravitz, I think that's her name, who played as Selena Kyle in the Batman. I thought she was a great Selena Kyle. And Battinson, of course. Battinson's fine. I think Battinson was all right. The narration was a little goofy, but yeah, I think him as Batman and Bruce Wayne. I thought that's fine. But anyways, getting back to the show, let's just go through some of the other characters too. Clancy Brown as Sal Maroni. At first, I was like, "What the fuck is Clancy Brown, Mr. Krabs? I love money, 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 money." Like I had no idea that Clancy Brown would be such a fucking badass character, playing Sal Maroni, as just like this like street brawler, not a guy who is like the business suit, business tie, like like kind of just like with the tinted shades like Carmine wears and shit like that. Like none of that. He is a fucking brawler, and he is a giant ass dude. I was so happy to see that like Clancy Brown. You could tell that he was just having fun with this show, right? And I thought that character was great, and how he died too, with a heart attack. I thought at first I was like, no way, what? This is fucked. This is no, I don't. Come on, And then I realized after the fact, when Oz tried to. And Dan Murrell mentioned, like, I watched his video on it, on his take about like, oh, I think he was trying to prove to the other people that like he took down Sal. I think he was trying to prove to himself, and Dan does mention that, but I think more so he was trying to convince himself that he was one who took down Sal. But it's the most pathetic way of going about it, right? And still like shot his fucking body because he just wanted to prove to himself again that like this is all by the hands of him. He was one who took down Sal, despite that like Sal, just got a fucking heart attack and just passed and shit. And him and Clancy Brown's character, Sal, going through the turmoil and turbulation of losing their son and his wife both is just like, it was just so incredibly sad. Especially how they died too, at the hands of Oz. And it just felt like there was no way for Oz to still remain out on top, and he somehow still fucking did. I think the show really lent itself to it lent itself to like a good crime show, but not in the way that like people want to compare it to. Like I saw a few reviews of it, because I'm just a nasty lurker like that. I love watching or reading shit on Letterboxd and in Rotten Tomatoes after a show comes out. After I watch the whole thing, by the way, and seeing that like to compare, like I saw a lot of these reviews compare itself to The Sopranos. I understand why people make that comparison, but this is a show that completely stands alone by itself. Because at least with Tony Soprano, there are, I might get some hate, but there are some redeeming qualities of Tony. even though he is also fucking a psychopath and shit, he still cares about the people who he loves, like, deeply. Not just his mom, but just his family in general, especially with Carmela, you know, despite that Carmela just, you know, stomps on him every chance she can possibly get, and rightfully so, by the way. Shout out to Carmela, justice for Carmela. But yeah, I think that the show really stands out on its own. And again, I appreciate a show like a comic bookian show to be like a comic book, where it feels like, you know, you're opening a new issue every single week, and it feels like that. And I love it when shows can achieve that. Agatha achieved that. WandaVision achieved that. Miss Marvel, in my opinion, achieved it to a certain extent. Although I did still vehemently feel that it's better as a movie than it is as a show. But it's still a fine show nonetheless. You know, I just think that, like, most of the time, those shows try to be so much like a MCU movie, like a Russo brothers kind of, like, you know, clone, to be chopped up as like episodic, you know, series. And you're kind of playing with a dangerous game when you do shit like that, because a show is supposed to hook you straight up in the first episode. That's what a show is supposed to do, right? And it's supposed to keep you guessing and keep you wondering just how far is this going to go? Where is this going to go? How is it going to go? And, you know, what's going to be the consequence, or what's going to be the reward, you know? And it's a mark of a good show. And again, like I said, I think I've just been so jaded to the fact that, like, these shows have really not live up to its successfulness, like what every other good comic book would be. And these shows really prove that. And I'm glad it proved it, because then, you know, it turns my doom pillar brain of like, oh, superhero shit just sucks now, I guess. And like, there's nothing we can do. And, you know, these shows are just going to be the way that it is. And I'm sure in many circumstances it's still going to be that way. But I now have a little bit more. Anticipation for like another season of Batman, or sorry, another season of Penguin, or you know, seeing where Agatha's story goes, specifically Billy Maximoff, but like even where Agatha and those two really end up, you know, because it didn't fully feel like it was a little bit of an open ending, but it ended properly, but still ended in a way that you're like, oh, okay. Now I'm kind of expecting that they're either going to be another season, or quite possibly just make, you know, a film, you know, that could feature Scarlet Witch again, you know, reconnecting back with Billy, who you know, like the true version of her offspring, rather than just a, you know, just random kids who she, you know, put a spell on, you know, along with the rest of the town, you know. So yeah, I think that these shows really are proving themselves to be more than just a regular ass show with just a regular ass plot with regular ass characters, that you really don't feel there is any fulfillment other than just what the show is. And yeah, I hope that they do more of that. And I hope that more superhero shows do the thing where they just kind of stick to the street level, but then you can have those shows like Agatha that goes into the, you know, the witchcraft, or even like the cosmic side of it, like Guardians, you know, that can do something unique, but also, stick with its like superhero stuff that doesn't need to be always the superhero shit. I know that doesn't make a lot of sense, but like when you have these characters, what makes a superhero great is because of their story, their upbringing, how they got to the place, where they, got their rewards, where they got their consequences, where things became chaos and order and stuff like that. And where did it fall off? And it's hard making those characters believable that way. And Oz in The Penguin was very believable. Sophia was very believable. Vic was tragically believable because I even trusted Oz. You know what I mean? Like, I even was like, okay, well, clearly he's not going to do anything to Vic because he finds common ground with Vic. Like, he kind of looks at him as like not just a protege, but like a little brother or like a son. And Oz 100% did not fucking do that because he had to like cover all the loose ends. The whole thing with his mom was too close for comfort. And he wanted to make sure that Sophia was punished for that and that he will never have any loose ends. So by the end of the season, he literally has nobody. Nobody. He has no one except for his mom. But his mom is in a vegetative state due to a stroke. Horrible what happened. But it was one of those moments too where and we'll talk about Oz's mom too, that Frances, I think that's her name, right? Yeah, Frances. I feel like was the wasn't the linchpin to what Oz was or what he became that I thought was the case. And it was really the opposite. It was that she did not want to have Oz take care of him because she just didn't trust him. She just felt like, she was talking to, she was living with a murderer. And that was really important. That was really important to fucking like reinforce that. And she did that tenfold. And seeing how she came to her senses at one point, I don't remember which episode it was, but it was a powerful moment between her and Oz, and that she was completely, there was no there was no Alzheimer, or Lewy body like there was no side effects of that. She kind of came fully conscious and fully aware of everything. And she said to Oz, you got to take me out. I cannot be a vegetable. I cannot be like this. This is a nightmare for me to live in gaps and to not remember where I am at all times or have even any awareness at all. It was killing her. It was literally killing her, that Oz refused to fucking do. Even though he said, I will do it for you. And he never did. So when she got the stroke and got into the vegetative state, Oz never followed through with his promise. And that is very fucking powerful. But for their relationship alone. And for Oz to seek that approval and demand that approval from her when she couldn't, and she probably wouldn't anyways, she then had to, or Oz then had to seek it from a woman who he just pays, essentially. Carmen Ihego, who played as Eve, Oz's girlfriend. And I love this act because she was I think she was in Dexter, I'm pretty sure. But I could be wrong. I could be very, very wrong. And it turns out I am very wrong. It's a completely different actress. So either I'm dumb or racist. I don't know. But great actress, phenomenal. Oh, she was in The Purge. Okay. Oh, she was in It Comes at Night. Okay. That's okay. So I love that show, It Comes at Night. And she was in that. So I think that's where I connected those dots to. But anyways, yeah, this show proved that a comic book, standard way of telling a story can also be effective. That doesn't feel like, it's just going through the superhero tropes the entire time, and it didn't do that. It felt like those one-off like series, and like what Marvel does with like sort of like What If, but like their own rendition of like specific villains, like the Sinister Six comic books, or like any of those, who just kind of like break down some of these villains and why they are who they are. I always loved those comic books, and I was wanting that from these shows for a long time, and now that we got it, I'm glad to see that a lot of people are really, really enjoying shit like this, because that's how I felt with most of these comic books. Because like the comic books like aren't always so like flashy and so everything. Like if you want like a good, serious, dark, gritty comic book that sort of pokes at like most of like the superhero shit, I mean, look no further than Alan Moore's Watchmen. That was like one of the first comic books where I was like, oh shit, like heroes are villains, and the good people are the bad people. Oh fuck, this is like metal as shit, And I was very young when I read a few. I didn't read the entire series, but I read a lot of it, which I probably should finish. But yeah, the show is also great too. The Watchmen show. The Zack Snyder film is fine. I haven't watched it in a very long time. I don't know how I really feel about it, but it is Zack Snyder. If you like Zack Snyder, I'm sure you'll probably like it. But yeah, I think the show is a good representation of that, the Watchmen show. And yeah, I think just wrapping it up with Penguin, I think it's just a solid ass show with solid characters that made sure that they were important without shoving it into your face. They just kind of like laid out the entire story, and they tell you that these characters are the way that they are. There is no redeeming qualities with most of them, really. And you're not supposed to like someone like Oz, even though at one point I did, by way of Vic. And so by killing Vic, it was one of those reinforcing moments where I was like, oh, this is what it is. It's supposed to be that tragic. You're supposed to, kind of read this as a comic book and get to that page and go, what? This entire fucking series changed for me. How did this happen? And it happened beautifully, and it was executed as best as it possibly could. So yeah, I definitely really enjoy Penguin. Did I enjoy it more than Agatha? I think I enjoyed the parts of Agatha that I really enjoyed, and I enjoyed a lot of the parts of Penguin that I really, really loved. But no, I mean, these are just fundamentally two different shows, but it needed to be different. That's the thing. It's like most of these shows like needs to be different, and I'm praying to fucking God that Marvel takes a note out of these shows and not just go straight for, oh, what do fans want? Oh, we want to do Avengers again? Oh, let's bring back RDJ. But he won't be Iron Man, he'll be Doctor Doom. It's like, I don't even think they really like even pay attention to what people actually want, despite the fact that it had like a roarous applause when RDJ came out as Doctor Doom. I talked about that in a previous episode. I won't get into it because I gotta get going. Yeah, we're at an hour 12. Oh my god. Yeah, we gotta go. I gotta get out of here, y'all. So, anyways, thank you guys. What did you think of Penguin? What did you think of Agatha? And before anybody is like, wow, this dude is like a few weeks late. Stop it. I take my time with shit. Okay. Sometimes I just don't have time. There's so many movies or so many shows. Fucking leave me alone, But pretty soon I'm going to get back into movies. There's been a few movies that I have in the docket that I really want to watch. One of them being The Substance. I've heard a lot of people, especially who I work with in the industry, just go, yeah, that movie is pretty crazy. So I'm excited. Very excited. What did you guys think of the show? What did you think of Agatha? Did you kind of have the same takeaways as I have? Or what were the things that like disappointed you in either of these shows? I want to see genuine opinions. Okay. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, that's Adam is Chase podcast. I'll see you next time. Hopefully tomorrow. And yeah, don't talk to strangers, exercise, and, say hi to your neighbors, check in on them, see how they're doing, but don't talk to strangers. Okay. Okay. Bye.